A friend he long seemed, and maybe in the beginning he was one in truth. Though afterwards there was little doubt in men's minds that Saruman went to Isengard and hoped to find the stone still there, and with the purpose of building up a power of his own. Hey everyone, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today we are taking a look at the fall of Saruman, and when exactly it happened. Was he ever really good to begin with? Related sources will be in the description and cards, my friends. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. For Saruman, the process of falling was certainly that, a process. While there were certainly signs of Saruman's corruption in his personality, it does seem to have taken a long time for it to truly manifest. Primarily, it was his arrogance, jealousy, and insatiable hunger for power that would inevitably lead him down a path towards ruin. Therefore, if we look back at his time in Valinor, even before becoming a wizard while he was good, or at least had a more noble goal, even then he still mirrored Sauron in some ways, being an ambitious Maya who served Aule the Smith. When the mission of the Astari was presented, Saruman immediately wished to go. He would be one of the first to volunteer and would become head of the Astari Order. Upon arriving in Middle-earth, Saruman went east with the Blue Wizards, yet returned alone. A theory I've always had is that perhaps Saruman abandoned them or did something treacherous to them during that time, that they would never return west perhaps, and after that the White Wizard himself returned. Now there's not much backing for this, but knowing where Saruman ends up and how he does end up betraying the other two wizards, Radagast and Gandalf, I do find it interesting headcanon nonetheless, that Saruman might have done something to hinder the Blue Wizards before returning west himself, since he was the only one to return. But after coming back, in about 2463 of the Third Age, he was named the head of the White Council, and he was granted access to the archives of Minas Tirith, where he eventually discovered that a Palantir would give him an edge over others. He took control of the Fortress of Isengard some years later, and would begin using the Palantir. After all of this, Saruman would still preach to Gandalf in a self-righteous way, condemning Gandalf's love of the halflings and their pipeweed and so forth. He still acted the hero. Now, of course, Sauron did not have control of the Ethiel Stone quite yet, but his servants, the Nazgul, did. So maybe Saruman had contacted the Nazgul in Minas Morgul, but at this point, he wasn't yet fully evil, in my mind. However, Saruman was envious of Gandalf. He knew others appreciated Gandalf more than him, and Gandalf's counsel and advice. For Círdan even gave the Grey Wizard his Ring of Fire, something that enraged Saruman when he found out, and likely drove him towards wanting to create his own Ring of Power later on. In 2851 of the Third Age, the White Council convened, and Saruman vetoed Gandalf's idea to oust Sauron from Dol Guldur. Now, in my mind, it was by this time that Saruman had truly turned evil, at least evil enough to some degree, as he was actively hindering his own faction in pursuit of his personal goals. That betrayal was certainly present. So it was sometime between the formation of the White Council and this moment that he had more or less decided that he was the one who knew better than everyone else, and that really led him to evil decisions. In the time after, Saruman would actively look for the One Ring, a truly treacherous thing since he planned on keeping it for himself. Now, whether or not he accepted his own treachery is up for debate, but certainly by the time that he ousted Sauron because he was worried the Dark Lord would find the ring before him, and he took Orthanc as its master and fortified it, knowing war may come, and breeding an army of orcs, he definitely was more or less evil, according to the Free Peoples, if they had known what he was up to. Now, again, whether he knew he was truly changed and treacherous or not, I'm not sure. I think to some degree he still saw himself as the hero of this story. But perhaps he saw that he was using other methods, at least, and methods that many would condemn to achieve his goals. I don't necessarily think he saw himself as evil. Not yet, anyway. Again, he saw himself as a wise lord with all of the answers, one who deserved to rule over the unknowing and the ignorant. To some degree, I do think he obviously resented, but also respected Gandalf, perhaps more than anyone in Middle-earth except Sauron. He only truly respected those with power and the will to use it, thus the halflings seemed absolutely worthless to him, at least at first. Saruman saw Radagast as a fool and a puppet, The Free Peoples as ones who generally needed wise leadership, and Sauron as, yes, evil, but one with at least respectable power and will to actually use such power to change the world. Saruman believed in always seeking more, thus becoming the Wizard of Many Colors rather than just Saruman the White, the station already assigned to him. The color seems changing, unreliable, just like him. This is how I believe Saruman also attempted to justify his dual treachery to the Free Peoples and to Sauron. Once he had conquered enough and had enough power, particularly the One Ring, he could defeat Sauron and save Middle-earth and its people for himself, saving them, at least in his mind, to become the new Dark Lord. Now, I will say one problem with this idea is I'm not sure if Saruman was that naively arrogant enough to really think he was the good guy while sending thousands of orcs and Dunlendings and Uruk-hai to slaughter the people of Rohan. Now, I do wonder at that point if he truly saw his evil, and definitely at this point he was of course already evil, but whether or not he recognized it, I'm not sure, or if he found a way to justify it to himself. But many things, all around the same time, went wrong for him. The trees he burned to achieve his ends, their shepherds became angry and destroyed his fortifications and army. The men of Rohan were saved by Gandalf's interference. When the Nazgul had found Grima sometime before all of this, he had revealed Saruman's treachery at least to some degree, with knowledge that he was withholding of the Shire to Sauron, and what Sauron thought he saw through the Palantir when Pippin grabbed it seemed to confirm that. The power of Saruman's voice was lost upon those with wills strong enough to resist, particularly with Gandalf's aid, and he could no longer use the Palantir, as Grima threw it from the window. After all of this, all Saruman had left was the petty evil he had committed upon the hobbits that Gandalf had loved. I think he began to really see that he couldn't justify it anymore. He was just that, a petty, evil beggar. He cared not for these hobbits or their lives, but figured they would make good enough servants to subjugate with the time he had, and he had a liking for their pipeweed, something he once mocked Gandalf for. He was just this petty tyrant, and to some degree I think he knew that he had fallen. Even after Saruman's death, his spirit still looked to the west, either to seek validation for his deeds or redemption of some kind. But he found nothing. For the wind, Manway's wind, blew his spirit away in judgment. I feel that Saruman's story is a gradual decline towards evil, but certainly there are moments that depict just how far he's fallen. Again, his personality habits that he had never changed really pointed to the fact that, of course, betrayal would occur when he was given enough power. For a long time, I think he was able to justify to himself that he was the hero of the story, and his deeds were necessary because he had the power and will to carry them out. Even Sauron and Melkor must have known better their own evil, and Saruman only embraced that when he had sorely lost his stronghold and every plan he had made, and became an evil, petty tyrant in the end. Well, what do you all think? Is there a particular moment we can point to for being Saruman's fall? Or was it evident in his unchanging personality that his fall was inevitable? Let me know in the comments below, and so, my friends, we come to the end of our tale on how did Saruman fall. From this tale, we see that we must address problems in ourselves and our world as they may come, lest they fester into greater and less manageable problems. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video on how did Saruman fall, and when. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. His story and fall from grace are very interesting, and really differentiate his kind of evil from others that we see in the Legendarium. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider getting some candles for our friends Mythologie Candles, or order some White United Cutlery, Lord of the Rings swords, statues, and other replicas from Castle Kon, who does international shipping, and use the code WEST at checkout, and please check out our merch. Join our memberships and Patreon for access to our Discord server and our monthly podcast. We just released one on Sunday of last week, and it was really interesting talking about how the names of Middle-earth must have carried on to future generations, as well as what hard and soft power, particularly concerning Saruman, mean, all of that and so much more. So if you're interested, please check out our Patreon. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons and YouTube members, Ed Patterson, ComicNut64, Brian Hunley, Peter Shepard, John Hume, Reese Jenkins, Arthur Merlin, Theodore, Andrew Carlisle, and Zoomi. Thank you all so much. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today. And I'll see you all again next week at the video addressing my views on whether or not Tolkien had canon. A subject that's been floating around the internet a lot recently, so I figured I would give my thoughts on it. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.